Yes, welcome back to the Glass House where we do see things more clearly here. It's your most gracious host, Glass Top. And yes, indeed, my friends, I'm at it again. I'm about to go back in. Yeah.
One heart, one love, one unity, one destiny. One God, one aim, one Trinity. I am a madman. I am a madman. I am a madman. Yeah, 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 yeah. Was born in the country. I don't deal with rumpus. I am a contest. Yeah, 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 yeah. I am a madman. I am a bad man. I am a madman. Yeah, 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 yeah. Human Rights Declaration throughout the universe. Say Lord. Speak the truth and speak never cause it whatever. For he who had the wrong it does the wrong things then. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh yeah, God is present. Oh, shaking hand with lightning, shaking hand with thunder, rhythm from the earth. Whoa, 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 whoa. Truth is taking over. Liars run for cover. The truth is taking over. I am a contest. I am a frontist. I was blessed by all split, banana split. I am the madman who come to cool the bad ones. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, I was born for my people. My heart is a drum, my mind is a bass. My face is a mirror, my ears are lightning. Yeah, I hear everything. I see everything with my mystic eye, the mystic sky. I am a madman, I'm too cool all the bad man. I am a madman, yeah, 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 come to cool the bad one. I was born from a broken, yeah, 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 bass and drum, and I learned to hear it the rum bass, tom to tom and the phantom. Yeah, born in the country, was born in the young trade, was born in the young trade. It's done Jamaica, Hanover, me. The roots taking over, the youth's taking over. Right, yeah, 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 yeah. Lions run for cover. Your days are over. The truth taking over. Yeah, 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 yeah. The roots taking over. The truth's taking over. The night taking over. Yeah, 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 yeah. The day taking over. cool the bad weather. Yeah, 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 yeah. The Super 8, the Super 10. The rain taking over, the breeze taking over, the trees taking over. Yeah, 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 yeah. The earth taking over, the wind taking over, the sky taking over.
Welcome back to the Glass House, where we do see things more clearly here. And I do mean crystal clear. It's your most gracious host, Glass Top. And before I get started, I want to take time out to give all the glory, honor, and praise to the true living God, the Most High. And thank Him for His Son, the Messiah, as we anticipate His return and to watch these heathens burn. Okay? Because when He come back, He's coming back with a vengeance. And I also want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Because I do believe today is going to be a very, very special show. Every now and then I get those shows that I feel that's going to be just real special. And I believe this is going to be one of them. Okay. Recently, I've been like watching lectures and documentaries and stuff like that. And I came across a Hebrew woman from the tribe of Judah. Okay. Dr. Joy DeGroy. Okay. And I'm going to leave a link of one of her lectures that I've watched in the description box here. So after the show, or whenever you feel like it, I do recommend that you look at the show, look at her lecture, and I'm telling you, it's a great lecture. And I enjoy seeing beautiful black Hebrew Israelite women rising above the ashes, okay, and coming out and growing a rose out the concrete and touching and changing people's lives and standing up for what's right and what's true. And that inspires me, especially when I see a Hebrew woman doing it, because my people are destroyed from their lack of knowledge. And it's sad to say, in my community, that the women are just lost. Now, on the flip side of that coin, so are the dudes. But you know, I'm just saying from my own personal experience. I mean, like, it's very refreshing to see someone with themselves together and talking the cash money truth. Okay, so definitely check that out. But in her lecture, she said something that stuck with me, and she talked about something called cognitive dissonance. And through her research, she realized that you have to have a level of cognitive dissonance to actually sell and buy and beat slaves the way that the European colonists did when they colonized in America. And we was brought over here to Jamestown, Virginia. Okay? So, and, you know, she made a point, and before I go any further, I want to explain to you what cognitive dissonance is. It's like a serial killer. Now, that serial killer grows into that. That's something that don't just happen overnight. A person wake up. In some cases, it does, but we're going to say in the normal of the psychopathic serial killers, okay? Their MO is when they're young, you know, they start off killing like animals. They might kill a bird. They might shoot a bird with a BB gun and then dissect it. They might catch a frog and kill it. And by doing this, it's developing cognitive dissonance and respect for life. So the more animals that the kid kills, that desire to kill grows because a certain amount of emotions have been removed and a disregard for that for life in general. So by the time they're older, they want to start killing humans. That's why a lot of serial killers have no problem strangling somebody, cutting them up, and then taking a shower and then going to sleep and waking up and eating some Cheerios in the morning. Like ain't nothing happened. And take the kids to school. Because they have removed that cognitive dissonance, or they have filled themselves with that, and now they're able to function and take another human's life without it bothering them. You see what I'm saying? So there had to be a level of that, and back in the origins of our ancestors in slavery, okay? So, I mean, I don't have to do much to tell you and elaborate on as far as the atrocities that were committed on the children of Judah in this particular land here we call America, a.k.a. Babylon, a.k.a. the land of the snake, okay? So, a.k.a. Sodom and Gomorrah. I don't have to do too much explaining of some of the horrific things, like how they used to use babies for alligator bait, you dig, up in Florida, you know. Just horrendous, just treating our people horrendously. I mean, you ever heard the term working to death? That literally happened to our people out there. Okay? So when you get to talking about this, especially with white people, they immediately shut you down. The moment you say anything about slavery, the moment you say anything about that, oh, you need to let it go. I have nothing to do with that. And see, that's the problem right there that Dr. Joy was explaining. That's why I say you get it all in the link once you watch it. I'm just kind of giving you a brief rundown and also giving my 2 cents on, because I agree with what she's saying. Because when you bring up the history of America, it involves both sides of the spectrum. It involves the Hebrews, and it involves the Europeans, okay? And we're the descendants of the Hebrews that came over here with ships, like Deuteronomy 28:68 prophesies, okay? All right? So, the thing is, when you're involved in that, whether you like it or not, so in order for us to really heal and get past it, how do you think that we can do that? What would have to be done? We would have to peel back the layers, and people would have to deal with the fact of what their great granddad did, of what their heathen, forefathers did to our people. Okay? But to feed a baby to an alligator, you have to have removed so much emotion, and that cognitive dissonance is so activated in your mind that you are literally insane. This actually happened. It's a whole bunch of things. I don't even want to talk about it because I get emotional too. Because it affects me. Because why? Those are my ancestors. Just like it makes a white person uncomfortable. That's why you can hear him talk about... Matter of fact, I'm finna play this clip right here. Check out how this white guy does.
Anniversary of the worst attack on American soil. September 11th, 2001. We must remember that day. We must always remember that day. We must never put it behind us. We must never say, well, it's in the past, let's move on. We can never move on. The other thing that we must remember is that we're not any safer today, maybe less safe than we were on that day. And part of the reason is because this administration has eviscerated our military. We've not gone after our enemies, and our southern border is wide open.
Matt, what happened in 9/11 was a crime against humanity, and America should always remember that and work diligently to make sure that that never happens again. But no government can keep its population totally 100% safe. So we must do our due diligence to send a message to those terrorists that if you're successful in striking America, we will hunt you down like the criminals you are, and you will pay the consequences. But also, I think that we should do a better job in this country of educating the American public. The first time that airplanes were used to kill hundreds and potentially thousands of people in this country was not September the 11th. It was in the 1930s in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when on a Sunday afternoon, white people who were jealous of the prosperity of an entire black community's wealth got in airplanes and bombed their
less than a minute,
and killed hundreds, and some studies say up to 4,000 African Americans were murdered in Tulsa, Oklahoma using airplanes.
What has that got to do with 9/11? What has that got to do with what the hell we're talking about?
Because you said, how do we remember? And what I want you to understand is we should remember 9/11 the same way we remember Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what happened with that terrorist act against black people.
Let me explain something to you, Quanell. These people in the Middle East, like ISIS, they want to kill you, they want to kill me, they want to kill your kids, they want to kill everybody. So instead of making this a racist argument, let's talk about Americans. We're all Americans, right?
And Matt,
so let's protect this
the hundreds, potentially thousands that were murdered in Tulsa, Oklahoma, were Americans being murdered and slaughtered by terrorists who were Americans also. So don't tell me that when white people are slaughtered in New York, and yes, they were, and black people died too.
What are you talking about?
All races died in New York.
There were Catholics, there were Muslims, there were
Jews,
there were Asians, whites and blacks.
Yes,
all
a
kinds
crime
of people
against
killed.
humanity. But remember, the first time it happened was when you did it to black people in Oklahoma using airplanes. Chickens come home to roost whether you like it or not.
Wow, man. You know what? The reason why this country is in such dire shape is
bottom
because
line
people
is,
like
Matt,
you
educate
have
the
lost
American
focus
public
on what made this country great.
America, they didn't make this country great. Everybody in this country made America great, but pay all of its citizens the correct homage and treat all of us equal. The first terrorists were not them from Arabs. It was right here in America.
Okay. Now, if you saw in that video I just played, notice how intensely the white guy was like, we can never forget, you know, we can never not remember, you know. But soon as the brother started giving him some truth, he immediately shut it down. He said, well, we got to make it a race thing. Oh, man, this is about the people, the innocent lives, this and that. Okay? Because they don't want to deal with the fact and the truth of the situation. Now, what he was talking about was an incident called Black Wall Street, and I'll be touching on that later on in the show. But I just wanted to show you an example of how we can't never really get past this situation if we can never talk about it. Now, I don't take nothing that happened to those people at 9/11, because when I saw that, I wept, you know, because I never seen anything like that, and I thought it surely had to be the end of the world, or if it's not the end of the world, like it was coming. That's how I felt when I saw it, man. When I seen that building, that second building go down, I couldn't believe it. It was like we all have post-traumatic syndrome from that. Post-trauma. We deal with that. As a whole country, everybody had to deal with that. They showed the planes over and over going into them buildings. Okay? So, don't get that misconstrued like I'm trying to take anything away from that. I was just trying to make a point of how quickly they will turn the conversation when you bring up some truth about the real American history. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Like I said, there was horrendous things that happened to us. The people had removed so much emotion to where they thought of us as like a animal, less than human. Okay? I mean, they had, you could look up the slave code or the slave laws, and over a period of time, these laws went into effect and it made slavery legal. It didn't happen just like right away. It happened over a period of time, over a course of a few years. Okay? So, and that's for starters here. Okay. So we know that most white people don't want to talk about slavery. They could talk about anything else, but get over that. Come on, man. I ain't have nothing to do with that. And to some degree, I try to understand where they're coming from, but they have to understand, like, we paid for our forefathers' sins, you're no different. And see, what people of European descent fail to remember is, for 1,000 years, Europe was in the Dark Ages. Okay? Europe was off the map. Okay? Let's get that straight as far as history is concerned. Europe went through something called the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages, okay? They didn't start coming around to the Renaissance era. So they have it in there. They try to portray like, they've been rulership in all this time, but in actuality, Rome fell to the barbarians. And they was in the Dark Ages and got plagued with the Black Death and all that other stuff happened. Okay? And then around the Renaissance era or the rebirth era of Europe in the late 1600s, that's when they begin to emerge. Okay? So just like they took a blow, it was down for 1,000 years. Don't think for 1 second it can't happen again. Okay? Don't think for 1 second it can't be another Dark Ages. History does repeat itself, Mr. White Man. So don't get too comfortable thinking you are on top. Okay? Because the thing I have with public schools is, when it comes to Black History Month, okay, all they do is start from 400 years ago when we came to America. Like, we don't have no other history than that. Okay? See, I have a problem with that. You have to look at that. Like, why is that, man? It only starts, we don't have anything from Africa, no records or nothing from that. We know we came from there, but there was no culture, no nothing for us. And people that's really interested and want to know something about their true history, the history of the Moors, the history of the Hebrew kingdoms, I recommend a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu. There's a picture right there so you can see it, wrote by Rudolph R. Windsor. And it has a lot of great insight and research that he did in that book about our history. And I recommend everybody should take time out to read about your history that you're not going to find in any textbook in America at any school across this nation. Okay. And before I get off the subject of slavery, I just think it's kind of really thrown off how the slaves was treated. Like, a slave get caught running away, they're like cut off their testicles, they're cut off an arm, they're cut off a leg. It's just horrible. So yes, I'm pretty sure white people get uncomfortable because the guilt of what their great granddaddies did to the children of Israel. But I'm going to go ahead and move on. Now, the second part of this show, and the second point I want to make, is after the proclamation of emancipation, after slavery was over with, the heathen was upset in the South, especially because you have to realize that they was getting rich off the free labor. We was out there in the tobacco fields. We was out there in the cotton fields, the rice fields. Okay, so that slowed down their bread flow, their money flow. So they were really upset. But once again, the heathen conspired. Okay, and there's a documentary you can look at called Slavery by Another Name, and it gives you great detail of when you see those guys out there, like the movie Life, working on the railroad, working in the coal mines. They made up a law called vagrancy. Okay, and what vagrancy was, like, if you didn't have a job, they would take you to jail just for not having a job. And we ain't talking about 2 weeks. We talking about 10 years, 7 years, 12 years. Okay? And what they would do was they would sell some of the inmates back to the slave owners, to the plantation owners. As long as they were convicts, they had came up with a law to where they can actually work, the inmates can work. So basically it was another form of slavery. They just did it in another way. Okay, so they made up all kind of outrageous laws. This is like in the early days of after slavery. People are trying to get themselves together. We haven't even had a chance to get over what happened to us for centuries. I want you to think about something deep, though. Like, for centuries, our ancestor was in slavery, okay? They ain't even had to get to comb their hair. They couldn't even read. Just think about that for centuries. That's just unbelievable, man. Until people can realize this, we have to realize this so we can get better as a people. If we don't understand our own history and what happened to our ancestors, how can we grow? Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and get back to the topic I was speaking on. Okay, and not to mention the lynchings that happened after slavery from the evil heathen that couldn't stand the fact that we was free, that still hated us for no reason. We didn't come over here to colonize. They brought us over here. Okay? So in the early part of the 19th, late 18th century, especially the black men of Israel in America were getting, that you couldn't look at a white lady. You had to get off the sidewalk. If you didn't have a job, that's 7, 8 years, 10 years, you gone. And you out there, working on the railroad. From my understanding, all the way from Texas through Louisiana, the ex-slaves, now inmates, built that railroad. And probably more. And see, this is what I'm talking about. Constant trauma from the heathen. Now we're going to keep going deeper. You know what I'm saying? Into the depths of American history and its race relations between the children of Israel. Now we're going to take a break, and when I come back, we're going to keep the discussion going and retrace the steps of our ancestors and what they had to go through slavery, all the way up to the current situation we're in right now. It's Plurify Hosea and Haseki.
Children of Israel, this is a time we must come together. Live in unity. Are we not the sons of slaves? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Are we not the sons of slaves? Yeah. Are we not the children that run away from plantations? Yes, we are. Are we not the children of Israel? They took us away from Africa land, got us down there in Babylon. Now we are like a roaring lion, Jahai, Jahai, yeah. Are we not the sons of slaves? Tell me now. Yes, we are. Are we not the children that run away from plantations? Yes, we are. Are we not gonna get no freedom? Tell me now. How long will it take you to give us just a little justice? Took us away on a rocking ship under heavy ship. All we could feel is the cracking whip. Jahai, Jahai, yeah. Are we not the sons of slaves? Yes, we are. Said, yes, we are. Are we not the children of Israel? Yes, we are. I said, yes, we are. They took us away from Africa land, brought us down here in Babylon. Now we are like a roaring lion, Jahai, Jahai, yeah. Mr. Big Man, how long will it take you to give us some justice? Are we not the sons of slaves? Yeah. Are we not the children of Israel? Tell me now. How long will it take you? People like you and treat us like this. People like you and treat us like this.
Yes, welcome back. It's your most gracious host, Glass Top. And I do hope you're still rolling with me and being patient with me as we walk in the footsteps of our ancestors. in this place that they call America. Now, the next step in this dark past that our ancestors had to walk through is something happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this place was called by the white people Little Africa, but it was known as Black Wall Street. Okay, and the local white racist people would call it Nigger Town. You know, so in Nigger Town was this booming enterprise at the beginning of the 1900s. You have this whole community of black people who are educating their children. They have their own stores, their own churches, okay? And you have the white veterans coming home from World War II, and they're looking at how prosperous these black people are being. I mean, they have a whole community. They called it Little Africa, okay? And to this day, you're like, why black people don't have any businesses? We already tried that. Look up Black Wall Street, okay? We tried to get ourselves together. And for a minute, it was pretty good. It's located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, there was a movie called The Birth of a Nation, because at this time in America, which I believe is the early 1900s, okay, the Ku Klux Klan basically didn't exist. It died out in the late 18th century, and basically they had no members. So once this movie was made, which it was like a movie about so-called black people taking over Congress and taking over the world, and it was like real degrading and ignorant, and the people wore black makeup, you know, the black makeup they used to use and portray black people. And some black people were actually in the movie, and they were all acting real ignorant. And at the end of the movie, you know, this guy, he sees the black people are scared of ghosts from these kids that was hiding in a blanket. He got the idea, and here comes the Klan, okay? And the Klan saves the day at the end of the movie. So what this movie did, it was viewed to over 50 million people at that time in America. It was all across the country. So there was a big explosion after that of the KKK, the rebirth of the KKK, okay? And so in Nigger Town, you have these veterans coming home that can't get a job, white veterans, and they're seeing how prosperous the black people were doing. I mean, all over the world they knew, because, see, in Oklahoma, it was an oil state. It was an oil city. They were sitting on a gold mine back then, okay? And so the black people had good opportunities. It was black people came from all over, and it was unity in the community, believe it or not. And some people know about this, and, you know, more power to you, but some people don't. That's why we're retracing the steps of our ancestors, so we can have the complete, somewhat a good story or a coherent layout of what our people went through. Okay, so we got this booming community. I mean, it's to the point to where they built a brand new church, and it was clearly visible that the black people's church was better looking than the white people's church. And there was a problem right there. And so an incident happened with a young man, and they all got riled up, and, you know, it was brewing up because the Klan was getting members, and they was blaming all their problems on the niggers and the Jews and the and the Catholics. So, in the midst of an early morning in June, okay, about 3,000 Klan members, okay, dressed as police officers with rifles and machine guns and airplanes. They flew like regular, like not airplanes looking like, you know, like the ones that spray the chemicals over the airfields, those crop duster airplanes, and dropped bombs out of the airplanes. The heathens did this. And people still don't know how many people actually died in the course of that event. But they, over a course of 12 hours, they burned alive and killed estimated from 300 to 4,000 people. Nobody really knows the death toll. But there's postcards that they made talking about running the Negro out of Tulsa. And, you know, a lot of the heathens were proud. But what they did was they destroyed, imagine that, a whole town. They called it Nigger Town. They bombed it. And that's what that black guy earlier in that clip was talking about. You know, like we tried to have an opportunity. But what happened? The heathen conspired against us. And you know that's not going to happen. And to this day, what businesses do we really have? But that's another prophecy in the Bible, which I referred to in my earlier show, the Negro Israelite Epitome, if you want to know more about that. Okay. So we know from what I've explained already, we came out of slavery. We had to go through the Jim Crow era, the lynchings, working on the railroad just for not having a job. You thinking, you know, like they plant crack and do stuff now. Back then, they'd just make up something. Where's my money you owe me? You going to jail. You be in jail for like 9 years for something you ain't even do. You know, like, and ain't nobody gonna say nothing. Now, what's interesting to me about Nigger Town or Black Wall Street is that a grand jury of all white people, okay, this is very interesting right here. So a grand jury of all white people voted, and they blamed the Negroes for what happened in Little Africa or Greenwood. Okay? They blame this event on black people, an all-white grand jury, so they can isolate themselves, so they can not deal with the fact of what they done, so they can comfort themselves. You know, it was in the newspaper. They began to rewrite history immediately. But the people who was there, and some are still alive, and they're talking about what happened. Black and white people. You know, over 1,200 homes were destroyed. So you got to think about that. That's a lot. That's a big place right there. Okay, and what these heathens did, okay, before they burnt the houses, they went in and looted, took all their clothes, all their jewels, because these people were well off and stayed in beautiful houses. Okay, this was going to be the birth of us as a people without no help, without no counseling, without no type of apologies. You know what I'm saying? They lifted themselves up and created their own city. Okay. Okay, now after this event happened, over 4,000 people was left homeless. And that year, over 1,000 people slept in tents of the cold winter that year of our ancestors. Okay. Now the deal about this is no one was ever in prison for all of this that happened. You know, I just find that ironic. Okay, and when the people tried to make insurance claims, because, you know, people own businesses and they was trying to get their insurance claims to try to get back on their feet. Okay, I believe it was like over 1,400 claims. You know what I'm saying? And not one claim was approved. Out of the 1,400 black businesses, not one claim of insurance was approved. But there was one for a heathen. Okay? He had an insurance claim on guns and ammo that he lost in the riot. And he blamed it on the black population of Niggertown. And he got approved. That's the only one. Now, if you don't think something wrong with that, I don't know what else to tell you. In the word it says, my people are robbed and spoiled. And that's exactly what took place in that riot right there. It was not a riot, it was just they should call it a slaughter. The slaughter of Wall Street. See, but they tuck that under the rug. You never hear that in school about how they bombed that black community and killed those businessmen and all these people. You never hear them want to discuss that. You see how quick that white man reacted as soon as he brought it up. I just want to go in a little detail concerning that situation, but we're going to keep the ball rolling because once Niggertown was blowed up, okay, we went into the whole, you know, segregation movement and the go back to Africa movement, okay, where the heathen didn't want us eating in the same restaurants. I don't care how hungry you are. We don't serve niggers round here. Got to think about that, man. Just think you getting off work, you hungry, and you can't go nowhere because they won't serve you. You done went to 5 McDonald's like, damn, y'all serving niggas here? Shit. Forgive me, Most High, but I'm just saying, though. Imagine the things that they went through and us today having to go through that. Can you imagine that? I mean, you thirsty and hungry, you trying to get you a Big Mac and some fries, man, and they like, we don't serve niggas here. You know, this is what our ancestors have to go through. This is why we are messed up today as a people, okay? This is why. And on top of that, most of us as a people don't even know about this kind of stuff. How can you heal if you don't know why you're hurting in the first place? We come from a long line of trauma. Okay? So, after Niggertown was blown up, we go off into the segregation time, and black people couldn't vote. You had to sit at the back of the bus, and we know about all that. And that's when the civil rights era hit. Okay? And we had Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, okay? And they both had different opinions, but they both were speaking from their heart and from their truth. Where are those people now? This is the time the Black Panther Party came, okay? You saw them out there by any means necessary. They was out there with shotguns. Where are our leaders now? This is the time we have to stand up if we really want to make a change and stop seeing our people get shot dead in the street. The same thing that was happening back then is happening right now. Okay? We don't have any leaders like that today. All we have is people like Young Thug wearing makeup and calling his homeboy's hubby. Okay? That's something I'm touching on later in the show, though. Okay. So we all know that the heathen had our leaders took down. They had the Black Panthers took down. Why? Because they were teaching their kids something. They was protecting their neighborhood. They was inspiring the youth. They was showing them not to be afraid. And you know the heathen can't have that. So we're going to keep the ball rolling, and we're just taking a look at the footsteps that our ancestors had to walk through. And you know they went through hell just to get the laws changed. But we need to get over that. No, I don't think so. I think we need to talk about it. And for starters, if you want to help us heal and you want us to get over it, how about kicking us some reparations, man? And I'm talking square business. Throw me about 50 grand in my account and help. I'm talking about not me, the whole nation of Israel. If y'all want to help, y'all broke off the Japanese, okay? Y'all broke off the Holocaust victims, but the children of Israel who built this country died working to death in the fields from lack of sleep and overwork and overbeat. We can't get one dime to get ourselves together as a people. Now we're going to go a little further. And now we're jumping into like the 70s. Now, if you notice in the 70s, things were in full swing circular motion, kind of like, we still kind of had unity, but like it was an explosion of these stereotype movies that came out. The media started attacking us psychologically through the movies they were putting out. Now, I actually like some of those movies, I'm not going to lie. I watched Willie Dynamite with the quickness. JD's Revenge and all of that. I love all of that because it's ours. At least we had something, even though that's all we had. Okay? Another trauma that the heathen conspired upon the children of Israel was abortion clinics. The heathen Margaret Sanger started Planned Parenthood, and she said that we need to put these in the ghettos because black babies ain't worth living. Okay? And to this day, black women lead in abortion. So the plan was successful. We're talking about 50 to 60 million babies since they legalized it in this Babylonian harlot system we call America. And you think that this kingdom ain't gonna fall? Just on the strength of that. On the strength of the way they treated the children of God. Don't get it twisted. I mean, not only did y'all do us in, but y'all made sure. Some people made us used to runaway slaves who had to dig their own grave, man. Can you imagine that? And the other slaves got to stand around and watch him dig his own grave. Now, what part of the game is that? That's some heathenistic, gone, madness. Satanic in its worst form. So yes, this stuff needs to be addressed, so we can have a clear, crystal clear understanding here of why our people are so messed up. We're going to take a break. And when I get back, I'm going to continue to put these heathens on blast. Okay? And we're going to get to the depths of why we're so screwed up in the head as a people, man. It's your clarified host. See you in a minute, man.
Yo, yo. He now. Rally round the flag, rally round the red, gold, black and green. Rally round the
Yes, welcome back to the Glass House where we do see things more clearly here. It's your most gracious host, Glass Top. And before we left, I was talking about the time period in the history of America in the 70s. Now, the 70s was an interesting period. And I always tell my friends, like, if I could choose any time to really, like, be in my youth, it would probably be the 70s, because that was before, things got really bad, with the black people in this nation. We had great music, discos, it was like, it wasn't, segregation was over with. It was still racism, but it was kind of like a groovy time, And the women were beautiful. They was busting them big Angela Davis afros. They was being they self. The temperament of the people was still good, even though we was being exploited in those movies. And if people think that doesn't have an impact on people, then why every year in the Super Bowl people pay millions of dollars just to advertise their businesses and what they're trying to sell? You notice that? If it didn't affect psychologically your mind, why would anybody pay that much money? We're talking about millions of dollars just for a commercial to air. I mean, all commercials they have to pay for, but why do you think they do that? They're advertising because they know it works. Same way in movies. That's why I say, when you look back at the black movies in the 70s, it was a lot of pimps, hustlers, and they will glamorize that, right? And so what did we have in the black community? The pimp game was tough in the 70s, man. Pimp game still going, but I'm just saying, though, like, you had the brothers in the coats and the furs, they wasn't playing, man. Because that's what they was being influenced by, okay? So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna move past that. It was a few things in the 70s, but we're gonna, like heroin was real tough. Okay, now we're going into the 80s. Okay, we're going off into the welfare. Okay, now the thing about this welfare thing is that in order for a woman to receive that government assistance, she has to be single. So that was strategically implemented by the heathen, okay, to keep the family separate. And there's a scripture in the Bible before the slaves had went into slavery, okay. The Pharaoh saw that Israel, the children of Israel, was being fruitful and multiplying, and they were stronger. So they were having kids. They was having a lot of babies. So they kept the women, but they killed the firstborn of the males. They kind of like condensed the population. And the same way they came up with the abortion clinic. But even through all that, women be having 3, 4, 5 kids to this day. They can't stop it. Because God said we're going to be here until the end of time, no matter what they try to do. So we know from that moment, and then we have also the crack epidemic. Okay, now when the crack epidemic hit in the mid-80s, which was implemented through the CIA, all you have to do is look up Freeway Ricky Ross and he'll give you the rundown on that situation. But it was a attack upon the children of Israel in America. Okay? Because if you grew up in that time period, you saw the change of a whole race. That was an attack against the black race. No other race was affected by crack the way black people were. And if you don't think something's wrong with that, and if you can't see between the lines on that, then you ain't gonna never see it. And on the flip side of that, okay, you have the people who are being successful at moving weight. Okay, you have your freeway Ricky Rosses, you have your Nino Browns, you have people that are actually having things in the community. And what does the little kids see? They want it to be like that. I want it to be like that. You think I didn't get me some cocaine and chop it up and get on the block and make some money? You out your mind, because that's all I knew, because I was in that part of town. You know, we all have things we're ashamed of and that we did in our life. And then keep in mind, now you got a whole bunch of new cases are coming up, because now people are getting caught selling crack. So now you got the prison population filling up. Okay, does this bring anything back to your mind? Like how they did in the early 1900s? Okay, like I was talking about earlier, how they would trump charges up on people. Well, that was the plan with the crack. You see what I'm saying? Because they knew if they could get the black man to sell to his own people and get him a case, and once they get him in the system, you're going to work for free. What you thinking? The penitentiary is $1 billion industry. Don't get it twisted. They still doing the same game. They just got more clever at it. What you think you're going to do in the pen? You laying around? Man, you're going to get up and work. You're going to do something for free. So this attack of the crack epidemic really just almost destroyed us as a people, but we're resilient people. But once again, this is more trauma that the heathen conspired against us, and we still yet to recover. But through all of that, we still rise above the ashes. We still come up, like Tupac said, the rose out of the concrete. We still do that. Okay? There's nothing these heathens going to do about that. Okay? Which brings me into my next topic. So we know that from the 80s, it just was out there bad. Gangs exploded more. You know, the gangs after the Black Panther Party died in L.A., after that movement died, the gangs, the Crips and the Blood rose up. That played right into the heathens' hands. Like, man, we ain't even got to kill them. They can just kill each other. Okay, you see how it works for them? So now, we also, in the 80s, we had a big explosion of the hip-hop era. Okay? And for the most part, in the beginning of the hip-hop era, it was pretty much the party music. It was pretty much, Africa Bambaataa. It was pretty much, some deep music like "Don't Push Me, 'Cause I'm Close to the Edge." They was talking about something. People could relate to it. It was a movement happening. And then you had groups come out like Run DMC who broke the plane for hip hop, who came out and like went triple platinum or however big they were. Run DMC was one of the biggest acts in the game at the time of the height of their career, if not the biggest act. So then hip hop moves to the West Coast, and you had groups like Ice-T, NWA, and things of that nature. So when the heathen saw that rap was a very influential tool, they crafted another conspiracy against the children of Israel. Because they figured if they could control the rappers, they could control the black male. Which is exactly what happened. They took gangster rap and they put it on a pedestal, and they like pushed away the conscious rap, the more positive rap, and they kind of swept that away because that was uplifting. They didn't want Public Enemy. They didn't want, Arrested Development. They didn't want Poor Righteous Teachers. They didn't want the people who were coming out, and speaking truth and enlightenment. They didn't want KRS-One talking about you must learn. Kicking game way back then. Exposing the heathen way back then. They didn't want that. So what they did was they conspired and they made gangster rap a conglomerate business and very profitable. And so what happens here is you have a whole bunch of people with no fathers, thanks to the welfare program, thanks to the crack epidemic, okay? And so who are they going to look up to? They're looking up to the gangster rappers, okay? And so what happens is you get this influence and you try to live that lifestyle and you get caught up in the system, okay? And then you get in the penitentiary and you out there building railroads for the rest of your natural life. So through all this trauma and all of this confusion and all of these conspiracies and atrocities that they stepped to us with, you see what I'm saying? Now you have what you have today. You have the monster you created. But in order for us to see any real changes, we have to do like our ancestors did. We have to stand up for what's right and even die for it if we have to. What you think the Black Panthers out there was doing? They was ready to rock and roll, homeboy. Strap. Okay? And them white folks kind of got some act right about theyself. On the cool. It wasn't no more segregation. Now y'all can vote. We want y'all to chill out. Okay? Now what you think it's going to take for them to stop murdering us dead in the streets? We're going to need people that ain't cowards to step up and do like our ancestors did and fight for what's right. Because if you can't see by now that these people don't love us, if you didn't see what happened in Katrina, that the government ain't here for your assistance like you thinking because you getting them welfare checks, you better wake up. So you want to talk about us moving forward? How about an apology? First of all, how about an apology saying that we're sorry that we hung your ancestors. We're sorry that they died working for us for free. We're sorry that we used babies as alligator bait to catch alligators with. We're sorry. First of all, you have to admit and stop running from the truth. You understand? That's for starters. We need to get our reparations. Okay? Everybody else got theirs. And I'm not just saying it because I'm saying because that's what we need if we want to put ourselves together and rebuild our race. Because right now we're in a bad place. we're in a very, very bad place. Until we have people that's willing to get out there on the front line with their rifles and say, we ain't having this shit no more, man. I don't give a shit what you're talking about. And we ready to die for it. That's the only thing that's going to change it. All this walking around and holding up signs, that ain't going to cut it, man. And I'm just being real. So eventually that's what this is going to come to. I hope that you heathens realize that. Because you got a generation of confused and lost souls in the house of Jacob that really don't care. So if you thinking for 1 minute that retaliation ain't gonna happen, you out your rabbit ass mind. People will get tired, and you listening to one of them, cause I'm tired of you heathens doing my people wrong, doing me wrong. You know what I'm saying? But it's prophesied in the Bible that in the last days, it's going to be a remnant in the house of Judah of the children of Israel that's going to wake up and learn who they are. And we're that generation, people. And the only way to make a change is to make a change. That's been today's show. Catch you on the next time. Peace.
Died in the fight, cause when the folks came they had their guns on sight. Many families got torn apart. They stabbed Africa right in the heart. 400 million strong. Like that, we was out of there and gone. They took us all afloat. Starved us for weeks at the bottom of the boat. Took us on a long ride. We was out there lost in the tide. They took us to the other side. A lot of those mothers cried. And our ancestors died. That's why you never take my pride. So what do you expect? I know you want me to be politically correct, and you might even get upset. But oh well, I never lose respect for my heritage. Not trying to cover up the things you did. And through it all, it's still safe to say racism still exists to this day. But still, it's got to be more. There's got to be more. I just can't forget about Africa. Yeah. And it don't stop. I'm never gonna let go of Africa. I'm never gonna let go. They beat us down while they kept us in chains. Took away our African names. And since then it hasn't been the same. Cause right now the fact still remains. We got the slave mentality. Cause all we care about is the salary. Cause we all living in vanity. That's why so many people on the brink of insanity. With no Christianity. They say the truth hurts cause right now it's so sad to see how it is overseas. The whole place got famine and disease. It's hard to believe how sad it gets. Guess it came from all the years of abandonment. They try to make it seem irrelevant, but the whole place is ran by a sinister government. And it's all so evident. People dying over diamonds, man, they killing off the innocent. With the gun in hand, it's kinda hard for me to understand. Cause I know that's where it all began. But what happened to the motherland? What happened to the motherland? But still, it's got to be more. Got to be more. There's got to be more. There's got to be more. I just can't forget about Africa. I can't forget about it. I'm never gonna let go of Africa. I'm never letting go of the struggle. The price my people paid. Yeah. One time for Africa. We gon' hold it down. And remember the struggle.